What's up, you guys? Mez here, and we got another episode of From the Ground Up. This episode, we're going to be talking about the squad leader. What's required in Battlefield before good kit selection, in my opinion, is good leadership. I think this make or breaks a game for anyone playing this game. This can make the game really, really good or really, really bad, and it all comes down to small unit leadership, whether it's individual or team-based. In this video, I'm going to go over what is required of the squad leader in order for his team to be successful in Battlefield 3. In the background, I got a round of a rush attack on Operation Metro with me, Binger, and James. We're on Strength and Honor server playing 48-man. One of the things a player would think of before taking the squad leader position is whether or not he has the mental capacity to lead potentially 3 or more soldiers into battle. It may seem simple, but after 10 years of doing it myself, I can say without a doubt it makes the game more complex and diverse than anything or any feature they could add to the game. Every person you lead is unique. They have, strengths and weaknesses and different things that keep the morale high or low in game. And while the relationship between the squad leader and his troops remains important, I'm going to focus more on the things that are required to get the job done efficiently and win the round in Battlefield. And the main things are that your team has orders or an objective at all times, that your team knows if you are focused on offense or defense, that your team is assigned cover arcs and weapons and placement orders, and for Spec Ops leaders, methods of withdrawal if a retreat or reposition is in order. So let's talk Battlefield philosophy. Some people like to pick my brain apart about this, but mission tactics, what does that mean? It's a term used to describe the exercise of command authority by a leader. Mission tactics places the relationship of command, control, and communications in proper perspective by emphasizing the predominance of command. This emphasis on command rather than controlled it provides for initiative. It's the acceptance of risk and the rapid seizure of opportunities on the battlefield. Now, what does this mean? This means that you're not going to control your units so much that they're not going to react to what's happening in front of them because of how much control you have over them. This gives units the opportunity to have initiative, to do things as the battle kind of unfolds in front of them, and to have the confidence of their leader behind them that they're doing the right thing. Mission tactics can be viewed as freedom of action for the leader to execute his mission in the way he sees fit, rather than being told how to do it. Mission tactics reinforced by the knowledge of the map objectives, like conquest, capturing the flags or defending the flags, or rush, blowing up the MCOMs or defending the MCOMs, and focused on a main effort establishes the necessary basis for small unit leadership. Control restricts command, really. You want to keep it to a bare minimum, really. Generally, increased control leads to less application of command. So not all control is bad or counterproductive. The challenge to leaders is to provide the minimal amount of control required and still allow for decentralized decision-making in each situation. Just like I was talking about, the initiative that's required to be in combat and do well in combat. One primary example of control that I've used since I started this clan is Rules of Engagement, or ROE. I came up with a traffic light code for how to control my team's weapon fire, so red, yellow, and green. And this is how my team understands these. When the fire condition is red, the team members should not fire at tangos unless they can only survive the encounter by killing the tango. All enemies sighted should be reported to the team leader, where possible move into a covering location and stay out of sight until new orders come from the team leader. In combat, a red order usually means to hold fire, fall back to a covered position, and stand by for further orders. It usually is called out when the team must hide or risk being destroyed, or if there's, like a squad member left, one squad member left to spawn on, and he must, stay safe for a squad bomb. And then when the fire condition is yellow, then team members are clear to fire only if fired upon or threatened by tangos moving to, like alert or combat status, so if they get spotted. It's good practice in situations like this to alert the rest of the team so they can provide extra firepower or take cover while this is happening. In combat, a yellow order usually means to hold fire and take cover from enemy observation and fire. It's more or less like to hide, really, from observation. When the condition is green, then all targets are available to shoot at. Again, members in my team really give notice that they're firing, and they try to coordinate firepower with the rest of the team or give them notice that they should be in cover. In combat, a green order usually means it's usually the signal to coordinate firepower on the enemy, or repeated usually means to heavily suppress enemy positions. So, you know, if you watch the movie on our YouTube channel called Green, you'll understand what this really means. It's usually when a yellow order has been called out and we coordinate fire, call out shots for each person, and then give the green order to open fire and coordinate fire at the same time. So the command element in all this is that my subordinates understand that they are expected to use initiative in making decisions when the situation is no longer what it was expected to be. So things change rapidly, and a lot of times orders aren't going to be given on the spot. So initiative is really required in order to be successful. So let's talk about giving your team orders or directives. There are 3 combat profiles that my orders fall into during a mission. They are kind of like major overlying ways to command your team. So you can have a recon mission, an assault mission, or a suppressive mission. So recon is basically a movement profile, either a combat patrol, scouting, infiltration, or going from one ORP to another. That's objective rally point. Assault, yeah, it's pretty much a mission tactic using an attack profile approach. You know, it's usually more aggressive movement profile. It's used in like attacking objectives, clearing out enemy infantry from hard points, stuff like that. And then suppress, that's a mission tactic using a suppressive profile approach. You're not really moving around for this. A lot of times you'll be moving to get into that type of position. And it's an approach that sets a suppressive perimeter around an objective, using firing positions to stop, hold, and suppress the enemy. This is mainly kind of a defensive profile. It's used to fix the enemy by using stationary fighting positions. In other words, you're holding down a lane or a number of lanes with a team. Your team having orders following one of these 3 profiles will be more successful than if they are allowed to wander around aimlessly. So we went over our first requirement, which was that your team should have orders or objectives at all times. Next, let's go over being sure your team knows if you plan to be aggressive and attack objectives or be defensive and defend a certain number of objectives. In Battlefield 3, if you're playing Conquest, having more flags than the other team will basically just bleed out the other team. So if your team can hold 2 objectives and the other team can only hold 1, then your team will win. Whereas if you try to push and hold all 3, sometimes your squad could get eliminated, and that can bust open, you know, the door to these other 2 objectives and make it easier for the other team to win. So being defensive and or offensive is a tough choice that every leader is going to have to make, and that you're going to have to make yourself, and you're going to have to let your team know your intentions. Your team should always know your intentions at the start of the map too, or if your intention changes in the midst of a battle, because things are going to change constantly. For example, if there's like a high value flag on Conquest that gives your team the AC-130 or like a vehicle drop plane, then it is high value real estate, and your team might be benefited by focusing on the capture and defense of that base. Or if you notice the majority of your side is defending, you know, and not really getting bases, your team may start focusing on the continual attack and capturing objectives. And it is your responsibility really to let your team know that that is the priority, to attack or to defend. Now we could go over 100 different battle drills and types of offensive and defensive tactics like ambushes, raids, hasty assaults, deliberate assaults, perimeter defense, defense from reverse slope, defense in sector, but we'll save that for a later video. But right now I want to talk about weapons and placement and cover arcs, your next responsibility as a squad leader. With a very experienced team, this should be called out by members during a mission. It doesn't even have to be called out by a leader. Example, I'm covering golden while we move, or I'm bipoded on tiles. But if you see the green friendly arrows pointing in wrong directions or all in the same direction, it is your responsibility as leader to correct the cover arcs. To position their weapons effectively, all leaders must know the characteristics, capabilities, and limitations of their weapons, the effects of terrain, and the tactics used by the enemy. Leaders should position weapons where they have protection, where they can avoid detection, and surprise the enemy with accurate, lethal fires. In order to position a weapon, the leader must know where he wants to destroy the enemy and what effect he wants the weapon to achieve. Additionally, the leader must consider whether his primary threat will be armored vehicles or just dismounted infantry. When the squad must fight armored vehicles, the leader positions anti-armor weapons. like AT mine, C4, or just a waiting engineer with a rocket launcher among like the most likely armored avenue of approach. When the primary threat is from dismounted infantry, the leader should position, his machine guns and assault rifles on the most likely dismounted avenue of approach first. So engagement priorities, really the basics for engagement priorities. I'm going to go into detail about each specialty and what their kind of designated targets should be when they're shooting. But really the bottom line is for people to shoot nearest to farthest, starting on the flank and working toward the center. And nearest to farthest is kind of the first priority, really. This is something that can be applied to any kit. Really, and maybe snipers might have a different priority if they see maybe a squad leader or a high value target at range and there's somebody else closer, but generally speaking the highest threat personnel are generally nearest to farthest, and then you want to work on the flanks first and then work towards the center. Last, I want to talk about planning for or ordering a withdraw. It's really kind of the last responsibility, I think, the basic responsibility for a squad leader. In a withdraw, a unit disengages from the enemy and repositions for another mission, combat mission. Units withdraw either not under pressure or under pressure. And this is a battle drill that my team trains for because it is a discipline to be able to go in a video game, drop what you're doing and who you're shooting at to reposition. I'm going to go over the drill, but the main requirement for a leader is to have conditions given to his team for withdraw or breaking contact. For example, if this set of conditions happens, then we are out of there. Or if you want to tell your team, stand by to fall back, stand by to break contact. That way they know that they have to be prepped and ready to drop what they're doing and get the hell out. Or say, if we receive this kind of intel on the enemy, like if we see a tank coming on the minimap, we need to break contact because we may not have anti-armor weapons to take it out. Here's a plan and where are we going if those conditions are met, etc. Let's talk about the basic drill of breaking contact. Let's talk about disengagement by thinning the lines, like using bounding overwatch, really, to kind of thin the lines, cover each other as we move. Team leaders begin the disengagement by directing soldiers to move rearward in kind of like buddy teams. Each buddy team covers the move of the other as they move back and turn. Smoke can be used to provide concealment if the soldiers are moving across open areas. Anti-personnel and anti-armor mines must be left also to cover the retreat. On the squad level, kind of the required actions, the squad leader directs one body team in contact to support the disengagement of the remainder of the squad leader orders a distance and direction, or a terrain feature, or terrain name, or last objective rally point for the movement of the first fire team. The base of fire team continues to suppress the enemy. The moving element uses frags and smokes to mask its movement. The movement element takes up the designated position and engages the enemy position. The leader directs the base of fire element to move to its next location, based on the terrain and the volume and accuracy of the enemy's fire. The moving fire team may need to use fire and maneuver techniques. The squad continues to bound away from the enemy until it breaks contact or it passes through a higher level support by fire position. So if you get back to like your friendly lines, or if the squad is in the assigned position to conduct the next mission. The leader should consider changing the direction of movement once contact is broken. This will reduce the ability of the enemy to place effective indirect fires on the movement. If the squad leader becomes disrupted, soldiers stay together and move to the last designated rally point. Squad leaders must account for soldiers, reorganize as necessary, and continue their mission. So that's it, guys, for the basics on how to lead a squad. Now, I can go over a million other things, more tactics, more strategies, individual map strategies, different things, specifics to rush and conquest and team deathmatch even. But we'll leave it at this. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave it down in the comments section. I might be able to include it in a future video. If you like this or enjoyed it, or if you felt like this might help you with your own squad leading, please be sure to give this the old thumbs up. And if you want to see more Battlefield 3 and in the future Battlefield 4 content, make sure you guys subscribe to the Bloodhawks channel. And take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.